You're playing a game, it's so plain. You're playing a game, it's so plain. You're playing a game, it's so plain. You're playing a game.
What's good, my G's? G stands for Gamers. It is I, your boy Snow, ignorantgamers.com. How you doing? How you living? How you gaming? Today we're doing a little something different. We're talking about some throwback stuff. The topic of the day will be Super Nintendo games. You know what I mean? We'll save Sega Genesis and whatever else for another time. But I got two of my friends on the horn. I got my boy Blood. Say what up, Blood?
What up?
And my boy Video Game. What's good, Video? Say something.
Yo, yo, yo.
And we just gonna sit here. There's no real format. This is basically a podcast, and we just gonna go with it until we say fuck it. Alright? So first off, Blood, you can go ahead and say a little something about yourself, and then Video, you can go do the same right after him.
Well, I want to really talk about getting into Super Nintendo, like the thing I like the most. Like I was talking about to you guys the other day. It really struck me because when I was really little, I had a Nintendo in my house. I'd play Mega Man constantly. Like Mega Man 1, it's dope. Mega Man 2 came out, I played that constantly. But when I was old enough to really get into it and I got Mega Man X for the first time on my Super Nintendo, I was blown away, dude. Because like graphics from there to Super Nintendo changed so much.
Yeah.
And like everything was just wild, dude. Like the color was different, the gameplay was the same though, but then you had all these other things at once, like rockets and all this other stuff. Dude, it just blew my mind on that. And then that was the day I was hooked because that was the first game I got on that system. So it was awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Video. You can chime in.
Yep, that's Video Game King, you know, with a one, not an I. Just remember that. You know, I've always been a fan of Super Nintendo. I mean, it's where it all started at. You know, before we had PlayStation, we had Super Nintendo. I think that was actually the keystone system that really pushed us into the world of gaming, where we are now. So many games, so many great games. I can't wait to discuss them.
No doubt. I actually think Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis helped with quality control because the NES, that shit kind of got a little crazy. If you look at that library of games and you sit back and you think about what was actually played, you know, a lot of that stuff comes into question. So, you know, I have my own personal stories with that as well. So, the first thing I want to get out the way, which is kind of the easiest, is the sports games. Have any of you guys played sports games, any sports game, on the Super Nintendo?
Well, my first game was Madden 94, and literally, like, I wasn't big into sports, and I started playing football. But then when I started playing football, my stepdad brought in. He's like, "Hey, try this Madden 94 out. I've played it before. You need to check this out since you like football." And of course, it just threw me in. I was so used to that old school NES John Elway football.
Right.
Bowl, dude.
Right.
You're just moving up and down the screen and stuff with a whole team behind you chucking along.
Right, 10-yard fight.
Then I switched over. I think the first one on Super Nintendo was Madden 93, if I'm correct.
No, it's 94.
But it is 94?
Yeah.
Well, 94, I got that, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I got free roam of a few players, dude, and you can just throw back and forth to people and run around and stuff. It was just crazy.
Actually, I think, I'm sorry, the first one with a number on it is called John Madden 93, and then the original first one was just called John Madden Football. So you're absolutely right. The first one was in 91, and then 92 was actually John Madden Football 93. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But most of the time, that game just took me for hours, just like that Mega Man I said earlier. But when it got to sports games, that's what I like. I like that actually better than I like games now on sports games. Because like football, I can play it for a little while. Like the new men, I can get into them for a little bit, but after a while, it just gets stale. That just had so much different potential at that time because it was so new and freedom of players, and it's just like they didn't just keep making the same thing over and over. They added to it. New.
Yeah, that's true. And visual concepts, the people who was behind that one, I mean, and then I think Tiburon came a little later. The visual, that engine was just remarkable. I believe that engine was used across the board for EA Sports titles.
Right. It was good, dude. That was probably the one sports game I played the most out of any video game I've played, next to NFL Blitz, of course.
Did you have any other sports games on the Super Nintendo that you liked?
I had NBA Jam on Super Nintendo. And I played that for a while, but I talked earlier to you guys in another talk. I had a Genesis also, so I had jams on Genesis, and of course that was the cool thing after so long.
Right, and that was the better one anyway.
I played a lot of NBA jams on that Super Nintendo, and it was fun for a while, but Madden, I just kept going back to Madden. I literally would buy Madden every year it came out on Super Nintendo after that.
We all did. We all did. Quarterback club, who?
Yeah, because you're like, what's new, dude? What's coming out next year for this Super Nintendo game, dude? What's the next Super Nintendo one for Madden? And it just got even better.
Yeah. I mean, there was this one. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm gonna let you guys finish talking about Madden. I want to throw a little bit more spice into the sports genre once we get off of Madden.
I mean, I wasn't really gonna say anything else against Madden. I was gonna say a rival. Well, not really a rival to it. I played this one football game that actually, what's funny, Sony made the football game, and it was just called I think it was just called was it called ESPN Football? It might have just been just NFL Football. It was one of the most generic shits, but being that it was so different, that after a while I just went with it, and I had my fun, and I think I might have had a little emotional attachment. Ain't one of the better games, but it had it was a gift for me, and it came with all this other shit. It was quite enjoyable. They had way more plays, in my opinion, or at least it looked like it had more plays. And
if you remember in Madden '94, sorry to cut in.
Yeah.
To add to what you said, that adds more. Well, remember that Madden '94, dude. Whenever you punted that ball and the other team got it, it would spin your whole screen around 180, dude.
Right.
Don't you remember that? And
no, I remember that.
Going the opposite way.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow.
I might have to send you footage offline about this football game once I can remember the name, because this one kind of did it too. And it was just one of those things where I told my mom that I wanted a football game. I think I told her I wanted Madden. She went and got a football game, and and this is what she gave me. And it wasn't Madden, but it was still enjoyable. It wasn't Madden, and I'm happy she didn't give me Quarterback Club. I'm
seriously thinking it was ESPN Sunday Night Football.
I think it was that. I feel like it was that. I just can't remember for sure. But yeah, what you wanted to throw in the mix, video?
So I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I had a few football games. NBA Jam was something that was, really high on my list, but it was nothing that touched my heart and spirit like Super Punch Out.
Yeah.
Super Punch Out was the game.
Yeah.
I mean, with moves like dodging, throwing uppercut, enemies like Dragon Chan. That game captured the spirit of SNES and all of its capabilities.
Well, that was a graphic change too, like a real spiking graphic change compared to what we're used to seeing. Little Mac all pixeled out, 8-bit style, to actual awesome graphics of seeing these guys in full form of what they should look like, dude.
Yeah, I mean, that was. I still play
black
that.
Hair, you had the blonde hair.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I still rock out on that one whenever I get a chance to. I own the game, so I'm allowed to have a motherfucking emulator. And and the thing about that was, it was just so fun to play, and it was such an upgrade from the original Punch Out, that how could you be mad at that game? And that's actually a really good pick, because I wasn't even it escaped my mind. It definitely escaped my mind.
The reason why I could so freshly bring it up is because, just like you, I have a copy of the game, and when I go back home, that's something that not only I play, but something I can play with my uncles, with my grandpa, with my dad, because they can get the same enjoyment out of that. They're not that far away from the gaming age.
Right. So
yeah, I understand where you're coming from on that too, because that's what I started my 6-year-old son out on, was regular Nintendo games. When I moved him up to Super Nintendo before he got into what all kids know nowadays, which is what DS, 3DS, PS Vita stuff, which they didn't get to grow up with what we had. That's why I think it's such a good idea. Kind of thrown off topic from Super Nintendo, but that's why I think it's such a good idea that PlayStation is bringing PS Now to all these kids that are younger than us, like 10, 11, 12 years old, because they never got to play the PS3 games we got to play. They never got to play the PS1 games we got to play. They get to experience all of that stuff now.
Right, and at least a curated
Nintendo, it's just so important. And we did that also, which was awesome. When you can go back to the Wii store and you can get all these Super Nintendo and Nintendo games, but it was very limited.
Yeah.
Like, Nintendo was really, really limited on what they did. 'Cause wasn't it something with like the NES? They would only allow like 5 games, a year, a month, or something like that to be made for their systems.
Right.
Because they were so picky, and they don't have the library like we have now. And it's just these games are nostalgic, dude. You can't say nothing about them.
Yeah, I mean,
they're so good.
Yeah, and the thing about the Super Nintendo with sports is for my favorites, because I really just can't give you one, and one of them is going to be near and dear to me, and it may not matter to anyone else. So the first one I'm going to say, which is at the bottom of this crop, is NCAA basketball. Now this was kind of generic, but it had all the conferences in it, and no crossovers, no nothing like that, but it was just a good, and it had the blue background. That's what y'all probably remember about it. There was no crowd. Yeah. It had crowd noise, but it was just a blue background, and the court would change. It would change, like if you were going up, if you had the ball, the court would change in the upward direction for you, and the same thing, vice versa. And it had the bullshit dunks. Like, it was cool. The next game I want to call out, other than NBA Jam, of course, is in there. I still believe that the Sega Genesis version was better, but the tournament edition on the PlayStation, on the Super Nintendo was phenomenal. They added the hotspots and all that tournament play and all that shit. Like, that was cool. The next one I would have to say is NBA Give and Go, and Give and Go is basically run and gun. Run and gun is give and go. Give and go, well, double dribble, run and gun, give and go. In the zone, and then I forget the name of that last one before it died out on Xbox. But that was the first game that I could do, throw alleys, have a multi-tap in a house, right, of 8 players, right, and we all just run up and down the court, throwing alley-oops and shit, reversing dunks. I thought that was the coolest shit ever. Arcade, but I thought that was the coolest shit ever. Literally dunking on people and literally blocking dunks. Like, no real game could you actually swat shit or anything like a dunk or a layup. Like, it was, it's either he missed it or he made it, or some kind of weird glitch.
Right.
For baseball, in my opinion, baseball wasn't really that popping. The games weren't really that popping on the Super Nintendo.
Bro.
But,
extra innings.
Extra innings was good, but my favorite one, it wasn't even a licensed game. It was Super Bases Loaded. That game kept me and my brother. That game kept me and my brother occupied to the fullest extent of occupation, and I don't know why we were so engaged with that game, but that was the game for us. Like, we would try the other games, and we would just be like, fuck it. And King Griffey was fun, but it never stuck like Super Bases Loaded did, or Extra Innings.
King Griffey was a 64 game.
No. King Griffey Jr. started out on Super Nintendo. He had a good game, but it just wasn't doing it. And then my top one will have to be, well, before I get into that, NHL 94, amazing. 95, amazing.
I was getting ready to bring that up too.
Yeah, I don't want to skip. I can't not mention that. That is incredible. It's just incredible.
The good thing about those is, though, hockey games haven't changed. Since Super Nintendo, hockey games are the same. Better graphics.
Yeah,
that's why it's so good still. No one has lost their touch in hockey games.
Right. And
I get bored with FIFA. I get bored with Madden. But hockey, dude, it's just something about fighting each other, checking each other. The court is small. The ice is so small that I'm not running across the screen.
Right.
I have everything there.
Right.
It's just like, it's awesome.
And my number one would have to be Live 95. And the reason why I put Live 95, because 96 was the best one, but Live 95 got to go in there first because that to me, just like Madden 95 was, or actually Madden 94 was the change for basketball games forever. The speed that game had over the Bulls versus Blazers and all that, and Dream Team USA, over all those games, and even NBA Showdown 94, which was kind of like the beta for Live 95, what that game was able to do and set moving forward. I mean, we got Coach K out of that, which was only on fucking Sega Genesis. Then we got a bunch of college games that came after that. Like, Live 95 just bumped everything up to the next level. Of course, you know, they put the grenades in, but nothing captured the speed and the excitement of playing basketball before that was kind of sort of realistic. Everything was slow, it had good animations, it had signature shots, but wasn't nothing happening like Live 95. Even down to the seasons. They had in-depth seasons. You could call plays in that game. You could be a manager in that game if you wanted. You could just be the coach. You didn't even have to play. You could just call plays from the sideline.
You could do that with Madden also. I remember you could do that with Madden also. You just let it play and call the play.
Right. And, you know, for me, that was just it. I had nothing else to say about it.
I'll have to agree with you. I mean, that game was, high five at its time. I mean, you got the best graphics in that game. You had an audience. You had, similarities to how you would watch basketball on television. It was just a lot of highlights, a lot of good information. The game was great.
Right.
Very beautiful, great game, very smooth on SNES. I really like games like that really push the power of the SNES.
Yeah, man. And
but we're forgetting about the #1 sports game, man. WrestleMania, the arcade game.
Hold on, I kind of wanted to put that in its own category because Super Nintendo did have a slew of wrestling games that I wanted to talk about.
That and WWF Super WrestleMania.
Hold on, we're gonna get there because also racing is a sport, and I also separated that. That's why I didn't plug y'all with that. So, you know what I'm saying. So while we're in the racing, because I want to do the wrestling one too, but the racing one should be pretty straightforward. What are you guys' favorite Super Nintendo racing game?
F-Zero. Sorry. That's where it kills it for me, right there.
F-Zero I think F-Zero is going to be for me too. It's very.
Was there any other racing games that actually existed during that time? Because
yes. Mario Kart is there, and don't forget Top Gear. Even if you don't know about Top Gear, I'm gonna tell.
Top Gear 3000.
So, Top Gear 3000 is dead to me. Top Gear, the original Top Gear is good, man.
Actually, I'm gonna throw you guys into a loop because those are good games. Mario Kart was definitely there, but I'm a little, off the beaten path. I'm gonna say off-road. Super Off-Road
was one of my favorites. That was one of my favorites. One of my favorites. Yes. And I was mad that the 64 didn't even get it. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Remember the arcade?
Yeah, I remember the red, the blue, and the and the yellow. The red, blue, and the yellow.
Red, blue, and yellow. Yes, you're just throwing that thing left and right, like I'm gonna turn this truck.
Yes.
And I think that's what I really liked about the SNES, that we had the opportunity to play it on a console at home, and then we go to the arcade and play it. You know? And you don't have that type of quality anymore. You can't play good games like that at the arcade. And because
pretty much the arcades are pretty much done, and the arcades haven't even caught. It's like the arcades are behind consoles right now. To be honest with you, I mean they've been behind consoles for a minute now. Before we went to the arcades, because we couldn't get no shit like that in our cribs, and then Super Nintendo kind of blurred that. But the PlayStation 1 evened it, and then after whatever came out with the PlayStation, Dreamcast, and PlayStation, Saturn, and 64 kind of evened the playing field a little bit, and then PS1, Sega Saturn, PS2, Dreamcast, and then later the Xbox came. That killed that. I mean, why would you go unless there was something that wasn't available on your console?
The last arcade game I actually played with good graphics, and I'd go to the arcade and play, was Tekken 4. Because you could take your PlayStation controller and you could plug it into your into the arcade system, and you could play off of that, and it would save your character worldwide. That was the first one that I remember being plugged into an Ethernet connection, and would save your character and your stats.
Yeah.
But other than that, arcade isn't there anymore, dude. There's nothing.
I mean, so I was just saying they had a lot of good races out there, man. I just don't think that they got as much attention as they should have in the SNES world. You know, like you had big hitters like Off-Road and you know, Mario Kart and F-Zero, but you know, the other ones kind of got lost in the shadows.
People knew about Top Gear though, you know what I'm saying? But the problem is, after that, then what? Because I know that there's GP racing games, but a lot of people didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? I know that there was F1 games on the Super Nintendo, but a lot of people didn't know that because F1 was still a worldwide popular thing at the time, you know? But how many people actually knew that, you know?
And then there was GP1, which was a good motorcycle game, but after a while, you're looking at the same track over and over, just going left and right.
Actually, you know what? Before I forget the name of this, there was another racing game called Uniraces, which was one of my favorite games. Towards the end of the life cycle of the Super Nintendo, it should call Uniraces. That was fun.
There's a couple more. There's like Cyber Spin and Hyper Zone. Those are like smaller ones, but they were both pretty good. It's nothing compares to Top Gear or Top Gun and F-Zero. Like, those games stuck out so far that none of those other games had room, dude.
Right.
They couldn't get in there for people to play.
And it wasn't their time. Their time actually came in the 64, not even really the 64, but the PS1 days is when their time really happened, you know? Because there was a slew of them shits then. So, alright, we're good with the racing, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so let's get into this WrestleMania conversation. Well, favorite wrestling games. Let's go. Blood, you at the top.
It's WrestleMania, man. Come on. Super WrestleMania, you can't beat that, dude. I remember playing as Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and Undertaker so many times, and they looked so goofy jumping off that top rope. And it looked like a stick figure with paint on them. But I was still just sitting there jumping up and down in my Macho Man shirt, like, yeah, look what I just did. Those moments were crazy, dude. Razor Ramon, come on, dude. That stuff was so good.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to go against that. But I did have some other favorites though. But before I jump in on that, you know, video game VGK, what you got, man? What you got?
Man, I'm kind of gonna have to agree with Blood on this. I mean, I was all about WrestleMania, man. If you could play with Hulk Hogan, that would make your day. You know what I'm saying?
Right?
It's no other game that you need. You know?
you would constantly leg drop, dude.
I mean, it's Hulk Hogan, man. Come on, like really? There's no other game in my inventory.
Yeah,
I can't say anything.
You know, that was definitely. The WWF Super WrestleMania game, that was definitely that shit was just so good. That one had the Survivor Series. It had the Survivor Series and all that shit in it, right? But then I feel like Royal Rumble was that set the tone, but I feel like the Royal Rumble one, WWF Royal Rumble, kind of like really branched it out. Like I felt like it really put it on the map. But you guys might be right there, man. Royal Rumble was definitely my favorite, but it's like with the Madden. Like, Madden 95 doesn't happen unless 94 happens. You know?
I get you. Go back on that note, I want to correct myself. It was John Madden 93 was the first one. After that, they switched over to Madden 94. They changed it to Madden in 94.
There's one more Madden before Madden 93. That was the first year they put the year on it. It was called John Madden 93. But then there's a regular John Madden as well, which was the season before.
Right, yeah, it was just John Madden, but I'm saying for years.
For the one with the years on it, yes. Right. Yeah, the 93 one was actually pretty good. So, we all...
also Fire Pro Wrestling. Fire Pro Wrestling, if you didn't have WrestleMania, I had a couple friends who couldn't afford to go out and buy WrestleMania or Royal Rumble. They're like, look, my mom bought me this, and I was like, wow, this is an actual good game I've never heard of.
Yes, and
of
this
course,
is true.
I got that game back.
This is true. Fire Pro Wrestling has always been a very good wrestling series, lifetime. Even the bullshit avatars on Xbox 360 that had their own Fire Pro Wrestling game, and that was still pretty good. And I would have to say, I mean, you guys remember WrestleMania, the arcade game, and In Your House, like that was fun.
Oh yeah, right. In Your House was good too.
And those were pretty much, you know, arcade ports. But my other favorite one was Saturday Night Slam Masters, and that was an arcade port too.
Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna have to. I think unanimously I'm gonna have to go with you guys on Super WrestleMania. I don't think I can argue that any further. The other ones would just hold a special place in my heart.
Right.
Damn, yeah. Woo! Fire Pro Wrestling. That's one series that has always been good and just never been touted. It never made the way that it should have, and I think that sucks because with me gaming and even knowing sports, there's so many players, so many games out there that are better than the shit that we actually caught on to as a society. And it's like, it's kind of hard to fucking swallow that when you know better.
Right. Well, it just, I'm astonished how we are so into those games that were so simple at that time that they keep making them for like newer systems now, and it's the same game just with better graphics, and you really can't do much more than you could then. Like you're just a guy pressing buttons to make your character do something for you.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's still there. Your childhood is still there, just in a different vision.
Yeah.
They're always still going to be good. Wrestling games are wrestling games, and you get to beat up your friends. You're happy.
Right. So another little topic, another little genre that I want to get into. I want to separate it from the biggest stuff is the beat 'em ups. I wanted to separate beat 'em ups because we did have quite a few. I don't know if you guys have played as many as I have, and I'm talking about the beat 'em ups like Final Fight and stuff like that. So
that's the game I was trying to think about the top of my head just now.
Right.
Final.
Yeah.
So we're gonna separate beat 'em ups into actual fighting type games like Street Fighters, and then we're gonna have.
I'm gonna do fighting games like Street Fighter, but the beat 'em ups, I wanted to get that separate because we're technically supposed to put that with action games, and I am gonna do that because there's a lot of action games,
like the Double Dragons.
Right.
I was actually about to jump in with Double Dragon.
Yeah, Double Dragons and all that is beat 'em ups.
Gotcha. Because
So,
you're walking around and you're doing it. It's not one-on-one in a small stage.
Right, and it's not really a side scroller like your traditional other action adventure games.
Right.
So,
Man,
so yeah.
this is gonna be a hard one.
I mean, I'm not telling you to give one. You could speak on 2, 3 of your favorites, and then that might invoke the rest of us to pull out some other stuff. So
Right.
go ahead, video game.
Just give me. All right, man. I'm gonna jump out there, bro.
Okay.
First of all, I want to get out there. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Which one?
You got which one?
Oh man, I don't even know. I mean, I hate every last one of them. They were all so good. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I can't even pick out which one I want to go with. I mean, we had
Turtles in Time.
We had Turtles in Time. We had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
Mm-hmm.
God, man, they were just all so good.
Side note, yo, fuck that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game, which is my all-time favorite, but the hardest fucking game, one of the hardest games I've ever played, that was on a regular NES, man. Fuck that game. And fuck anybody.
Bebop and Rocksteady.
Yeah.
Go down in the tunnel.
Yeah, or the swimming board, and fuck anybody who's ever beat that game. So, alright, let's stay back on the subject. So yeah, the Turtles.
Okay, we had
oh, hold on, we holding that.
We had Double Dragon, which I know everybody's gonna chime in on because Double Dragon was the game. It was the game to play on Super Nintendo. Everybody, I mean, Double Dragon is one of the leaders in co-op. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
Everybody.
I agree. I won't argue that.
An extra controller to play Double Dragon together.
That might have been my first real co-op game, if I'm not mistaken. The original Double Dragons.
Contra.
I think I played Double Dragon before I played Contra. No, actually, no. Rambo was my first co-op game. My bad.
Oh, wow, Rambo.
Yeah, my bad. Woof. Woo!
You old. No.
I've been around the world.
I mean, it was just an all around good game, bro. It was like, you know, it had everything you wanted in the game. Objects to pick up off the ground, combos, just destruction left and right, boss fight, epic boss fight. It was everything you needed in the game at that time.
I agree. Damn, that was such a good time. What about you, Blair? What's some of yours?
Mine would have to be Final Fight would be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I was really big into that. And then Pit Fighter was a pretty big one.
Yeah,
Like,
but Pit Fighter kind of goes under fighting. Yeah. That was a weird genre. That was kind of like you could call it beat 'em up, but then it was kind of really like fighting.
Yeah.
That one was in a weird spot. You could almost even throw that bitch inside wrestling in a way, but not really.
I could bring this one up too. This one's kind of a beat 'em up and a fighter in a mix, but it was King of Monsters.
Yes, that was good.
You were beating up the city, dude. You're tearing up that city, but you're also fighting that boss at the end of that, dude. I remember that. That game was just something else.
Yeah, that
I was like,
another
this
one.
is Godzilla on steroids.
Yeah, and don't forget, games like Captain Commando is in that list.
Right.
Who else would fall in that list?
I think my number one to this day is still going to be Turtles in Time, dude. That game, the day I got that game, and you see that you're on that bridge on the very first level, you're on the bridge fighting.
Yeah.
And then man, that just was so awesome, dude. And you could have 4 players on that.
That is true.
I remember when you could get the little 4-player adapter for the SNES, and you could play all 4 turtles in one screen.
That's true.
And you had kids behind you waiting to play that game.
Right. I mean, damn, yeah, that's true. I mean, one of my favorites definitely would be the Battletoad Battlemaniacs, the Battletoad Double Dragon, and of course, Final Fight.
Battletoads, man.
and of course, but then I was also a Jellicoe fan, publisher by the name of Jellicoe, and I had a chance to play Brawl Brothers, and that was a cool little one. And don't forget that Batman had a beat 'em up game, because I was also a Konami kid, and then I think Alien vs Predator was one of those as well.
That was kind of a beat 'em up game.
And Captain America technically had one too. So if Captain America falls into that, then we can't forget Spider-Man and the Carnage game, the red cartridge.
Right, I had that.
So then, this is what I have to ask you guys. Then, where does the X-Men games fit in? I mean, because they were pretty much beat 'em up style as well. But they kind of lean into the adventure genre, so it's
the X-Men, definitely the X-Men games were definitely action. They were action adventure. They gotta be because you didn't have the free reign on it. You couldn't just walk up, down into the background and shit like that.
The only one that you had free reign on, which was only arcade, which was the X-Men video game where you could walk up and down and have 4 players.
Right, with the 4-player coins. With the coin, yeah.
That was a MAME game, is what they called it. The MAME.
Yeah, still on MAME, yeah. And you know what? Now that I think about it, Power Rangers was also on that list, and Peacekeepers was another one.
Oh man.
Yeah, Peacekeepers was another Jellicoe game. I remember. I used to save money, and when the cartridges before we had this MSRP, the God MSRP. Thank God for that. These dudes used to these retailers would charge you like $85 for Super Street Fighter, and all this other shit. So Jellicoe made a bunch of games that were like $30, $35, and I used to buy these games, and a lot of those games that came in at the $35 price range were fucking good. Tato Software made good games, and Jalico. I remember always buying their games because, you know, they were so cheap. And Peacekeepers,
Right.
I had a lot of fun with. And I don't think I can remember anything else.
Rangers?
You want to talk about Power Rangers?
Power
That's
Rangers
fine.
real quick?
That's fine.
Oh my god, man. I mean, calling the freaking Megazord, bro. Come on, I'm just saying. You know? I mean, Power Rangers was the hype back in the days of SNES. Everyone was a fan of Power Rangers. You know, whether it was SNES, Sega, everyone had a Power Rangers game. I mean, dude, playing as the Red Ranger, playing as the Black Ranger, Yellow Ranger.
I'm not gonna lie to
everyone
you.
wanted to be
I ain't gonna lie to you. I enjoyed the Power Ranger games. I did. I can't lie
I
to
think
you.
they were some of the best games of their time. I mean, I love Power Rangers.
I've always been
it was
upset
like
with Power
the
Rangers.
American version of Sailor Moon.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been upset with the Power Rangers franchise after Super Nintendo because, man, we could have had some really epic Power Ranger games once the technology got better. And it never panned out. It never panned out. One more thing. Stone Protectors. If I was the only motherfucker here that played it, fuck y'all, because that game was good.
I remember that.
Stone Protectors
Well, then there
was
was
fucking fun.
Marvel Superheroes in War of the Gyms. dude.
See, but that's adventure. That's adventure. That's action adventure.
I don't know, because if you look it up, dude, if you look online, dude, it's fighting. It's under fighting. man.
It's under fighter, but is it under beat 'em ups though? Because we're still talking about beat 'em
I
ups.
don't think it was a beat 'em up.
Nah, it's not a beat 'em up.
Yeah. I guess it could be an up and down battle with that one. But I
Yeah.
remember playing that game a lot too.
I mean, I played a lot too. That engine was amazing because they put a couple. I think the Hulk was on that engine too. That was pretty good, man. I damn sure enjoyed that. So, well, fuck it. Since we keep talking about it, let's just get into the action adventure shit right now and roll all that up into one thing. What you got?
Action? Oh man, that's a broad section because I could be like one of the big things with Star Wars, dude. Those Star Wars games.
There's only one Star Wars game that I like on Super Nintendo, and I always have a hard time.
Empire Return.
I think that's it. I think that's the one. When
Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Those were both good.
yeah, one of those two, whichever one had the whatever one of those is a sequel, right?
Empire Strikes Back would be 2, and Return was the third one.
Yeah, I think the second one was my favorite because the Strikes Back. I'm pretty sure it was that one, and yeah, that game holds that's probably the only Star Wars game that I will ever go to bat for.
Yeah, I played the crap out of those.
So we did say action adventure, right?
Yeah, we're gonna roll those up into one.
Okay. I mean, oh man, where do I start at? That's like the
That's
best
hard.
category. I mean, like I said, we had X-Men. I can't not remember the full title, but basically you can switch out between Nightcrawler, Wolverine,
Yeah,
Cyclops,
Gambit and Gambit.
and Gambit. Gambit was
No.
the
Hold up. That's Sega Genesis, bruh.
Is it?
Actually,
That's Sega
X-Men
Genesis.
came out.
Or was it the one with
The only
Psylocke?
Nightcrawler game I'm pretty
Psylocke.
sure was on with the one with Psylocke. That's that. I don't think Psylocke was in the Sega Genesis one, so I'll give you that. But if you talking about swapping out on a run, because the X-Men game is Mutant Apocalypse.
No. You started off. You picked the character at the beginning of the game.
And that's how you go. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Mutant
so
Apocalypse.
that's Mutant Apocalypse.
Mutant Apocalypse.
That could be Mutant
X-Men Mutant Apocalypse.
Yeah.
That sounds.
that's
I know it had
Psylocke.
mutant in it. I can't. And I couldn't think of the end of it, but it was definitely X-Men Mutant something. I thought it was Mutant Academy, but it may be Mutant Apocalypse.
Yeah, Mutant
Well, there was
Apocalypse.
also, there was Spider-Man and X-Men also. That was a good one.
Right, and then there
Oh,
was
yeah,
also
Spider-Man.
Wolverine's Adamantium Rage. I think was one of those too.
Yeah. Man.
The point though is that X-Men games on Super Nintendo were where, you know, that was the genre. I mean, we also had the Addams Family. I don't know how many of you guys played that.
You know what? That was actually pretty cool. I can't front on you. I'll give you that. That was pretty cool.
I love the Addams Family.
And
I put a lot of hours into that game.
By the way, it was Super Star Wars. What was my one? I had to check it up. I couldn't let that one slide.
Yeah.
I have one more for you guys. I'm gonna leave you alone. But Donkey Kong, anything?
Yeah, nah,
of course,
you can't. We can't.
That's a throw down right there.
Yeah,
You
Donkey
said
Kong.
action adventure.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong.
Yeah, Donkey Kong did the damn thing. I mean, I caught.
Wasn't that one of the first games that had its own system? Like it got to 64. It was the first one to come with a 64 that was colored and coded to the game.
I mean, there's so much that goes on with the Donkey Kong game itself. Because between that and Star Fox, let's not forget about Star Fox, they had to up the chips that was inside the cartridges. Like, they weren't just standard cartridges. There was a F3 or FX chip or some shit like that, just to get that game to run. And you know, I say fucking money well spent, because, you know, what that cranked out on that system was just beyond. This shit was just amazing. Like, I don't remember playing a game after that, other than the Donkey Kong series, that could match what it did, sound wise, visual wise, and the game fucking ran. The game was fast. It didn't lag. That game was supposed to lag on that thing, and it didn't. So
it's amazing that they pulled those graphics out. I mean, freaking Super Nintendo was really powerful, and I hate that a lot of people didn't really understand how powerful Super Nintendo was.
Yeah,
I mean, for me, it was like it was the alpha of PlayStation, you know.
I mean, in a lot of ways, it kind of is. But the thing that helped them get the longer lifespan out of that console was the fact that they were able to put chips on the cartridge. If they weren't able to do that, then they would have been screwed over, because a lot of console was built with the power is inside the console versus, you know, giving an extra boost on the cartridge like they did, you know. Just think about it for a second. Like, imagine if CDs weren't limited to, what was it? I think 750 megabytes at the time. If they weren't limited to that, and they had DVD thing, PlayStation 1 and Sega Saturn could have had a longer lifespan than it did. You know,
right?
With better type games on it. I'm listening.
I'll shoot in here with another game that stuck me was Kirby, dude.
Kirby was amazing. Yeah, Kirby was amazing.
Man, I love freaking Kirby.
You could suck in all those guys and get different powers, dude. That was so awesome.
Yeah.
Can we cut that phrase out of the suck those guys down and take their power? I'm just saying that was.
Hey, I'm sorry. That's what happened.
Hey, we also.
That's what happened. Kirby was rolled.
Talking about Kirby, we had Kirby Avalanche too, which was one of my favorite games as well. Kirby Avalanche was. I'm gonna leave it for another genre, but man, just remember Kirby Avalanche.
Yeah.
Look those words up.
You wanted to take that phrase out. It doesn't help that you're a pink puff floating around looking like a testicle. Come on.
It is what it is. It is what it is. I will say this. I played one game that was called Sparkster, and it seems like no one knows it by name until they see the cover. And Sparkster, I don't know what animal it was, but you know, actually, I think I brought it up in the
It was a dog. It was a dog, I think, or a fox or something. No?
He's a very obscure animal, but I think it was like I don't know what the fuck he was. He's not a dog though, but he looked like a dog. It was a possum, I think he was. Out of all things, he's a fucking possum. I don't know why. But Sparkster, you know, that was a good fucking game. And like Cool Spot and Aladdin and all that shit, like those games.
Aladdin
was good.
Yeah.
Lion King.
Yeah, those games were all fucking.
Yeah, can you believe those games are that old?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, I went back and played a couple of those, and it was insane playing something like that. I was so into this.
Is one I have to call out, because I usually don't associate myself with this brand, but I believe there was a Mickey Mouse Adventure out on Super Nintendo. and I loved that freaking game.
Right.
That game was freaking awesome, and I hate Disney to this day, but I love Mickey Mouse.
I really think Disney was like the top end of Super Nintendo, for real. They had so many games at that time.
Yeah.
They had stuff like, they had Toy Story. They did have a Toy Story game, if y'all don't remember that.
I remember that shit.
They had Goof Troop. They had Peter Pan.
They had a
Didn't
fake
they also
Darkwing
have,
Duck game. They had a fake Darkwing Duck game.
Darkwing Duck. Oh, man.
Didn't they also have another Scrooge game out as well?
I think they did.
And then they had Timon and Pumbaa had its own game.
That is true.
Dude, I'm telling you, they had Jungle Book. I remember Jungle Book. I played a lot of Jungle Book.
Yeah, Jungle Book.
Oh yeah,
was
Jungle Book was good.
Daffy
But I'm
Duck
mad
had a
that
game.
because-
Daffy Duck had a game too.
Yeah.
Oh, and just
I
just for the sake of saying it, I gotta say Turrican and Contra 3 because Contra, not Contra 3, Contra the Alien Wars. Actually, that is Contra 3. That was like one of my top games on Super Nintendo for this genre that we're talking about.
I'm shocked that
Castlevania.
Danny didn't, that he didn't
Castlevania.
he didn't call out Earthworm Jim because he was so pumped up about it earlier on, and that was definitely one of the best adventure
I
games.
just thought y'all kept going. First one was good, dude.
Yeah,
Jumping out
that
your
was-
suit as a little worm.
Yeah, yeah, that was a
I'll
good
call out
one.
One more from me. Yoshi
That game
Island
was so
and
good, it had
Super
its own
Mario
TV
World.
show.
Exactly.
Man.
You said Yoshi's
Mario World,
Island.
of course, it's always been good.
Yoshi's Island was, again, that really pushed the graphics in that system to the edge. I mean, that game was so graphically appealing. I mean, you had these kind of like water painted backgrounds with shadowing effects. You had like 3D effects on the characters. You had all the different colored Yoshi. You had Baby Mario. I mean, that game looked like it belonged on a next generation system at its time.
Can we
Yeah.
talk about worst Mario game on the system? Worst? Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars.
Man, that game is
I
dead
was
to me.
with you.
That game is dead to me.
I was with you.
The day I got that game and put it in, I had the most disgusted look on my face. Oh man, my mom was so mad. She goes, "I paid so much money for that," and I'm like, "I ain't playing it. I played it once. I don't want it no more."
There's two games that we gotta say just for the sake of saying, and I'm actually very proud of one of them. There's Super Metroid. You know what I mean? And
I was
then
gonna go there.
and then Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. And the reason why that one's a very special to me because that is the only fucking Zelda game that I've ever fucking beat. Well, let's just put that out there. I'll call myself
So
out.
can we
Like,
cross into so are we gonna take that as an intro into RPG world?
yeah, right after I say one more game, Pac-Man 2, the new adventures. All right, now we can go.
All right, well, see, that's the thing. You actually open it up right there because honestly, those two games were role-playing games. You know, Pac-Man Adventures, people didn't view it as a role-playing game.
But it was.
But I felt because it definitely was a
I feel like it was
role-playing
too.
game, you know?
That's why I had to call it out right there.
Right, and I felt like some people discarded it because they only wanted to get to the arcade to play the original Pac-Man.
Right. I mean, I tell you what, my sister was a huge Pac-Man fan, so that game was in the house. I wasn't gonna buy that shit because I knew it wasn't the Pac-Man that we fucking knew. She bought that. We had a Sega Genesis just to play Miss Pac-Man, and then we had what the fuck did we have? Oh, the puzzle Pac-Man Puzzle, whatever one that was called. So that shit too, which was actually one of my favorite puzzle games, and I'm mad they never did anything else with it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So,
go ahead
I mean,
with
the
your
only one
RPG.
that what's that, Blood? I'm gonna let Blood go.
RPGs. I was kind of big. I had Earthbound, of course. Everybody knows Earthbound.
Mm-hmm.
I played that for a while, and I was into it. I was kind of an RPG kid at the time. I played a lot of Zelda. Like Zelda was top,
Right.
Because I had Zelda, I had the Link game for Nintendo, and then I had the Super Nintendo one. And I did have Final Fantasy 3. I
Right.
had Final Fantasy 3 for a while. And those games were fun, but it's still always going to go back to Zelda, man. Zelda just drops it all for me.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that we all did the Final Fantasies, and you know they were what they were. And I'm not trying to shortchange them, but that's just like the default. But I had fucking Lagoon, and I had Lufia Sinistros or some shit like that.
Well, I did
Yeah,
all,
Lugia 2, I believe.
I did bring it up to y'all earlier. I did have Chrono Trigger. I honestly
Right.
did have that game.
Right, with that's the one you said, the Dragon Ball, right? You said with the Dragon Ball cover?
Right, that's the one that looks like Dragon Ball Z. Which I
They
think,
damn sure do.
I seriously, after so much research, I think after time, that was just in the style of drawing back then.
It might have been. It might have been.
One of the artists on Dragon Ball, I think, was one of the artists for their cover.
Yeah.
But
It was
other than
actually
that,
one of the best games of its time too. Just to throw that out there, I
Yeah,
mean, it was one
yeah.
of the better RPGs.
if you go back and watch gameplay or even play it, it plays just as good as the Dragon Ball Z games on the Game Boy Advance. It looks almost identical. That's how good that game was.
Mm-hmm.
And not very many people had it, but it was worth playing. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
I have a few to call out. I'm just gonna run through them, and I'm not really gonna go into detail. But I mean, honestly, Snow, I hate to do this, but I have a few Japanese ones that I just have to call out.
Get them in there, bro. I played a little Super Famicom myself, so it's fine.
I have the Dragon Ball Z RPG. It was amazing. It was card based and turn based. One of the best RPGs on Super Famicom at its time. We also had the Sailor Moon RPG. Anyone who was a fan of Sailor Moon was itching to grab that up. You know, one of the best games of its time. We had X-Razor 2 coming back to America. We had X-Razor 2, and we had Breath of Fire and Secret of Mana. A lot of people didn't get
Secret
into
of
those
Mana,
games.
Secret of Mana was pretty good. I remember reading about Ranma 1 and Ranma 1.5 and in magazines, and I could never find that game here. But when I saw Secret of Mana was available, I went out and I tried that. I think my local, not Blockbuster, it was like, you know, we had these random local ass stores that did that shit too.
The little dollar a day.
Yeah, my cousin.
I actually put that game on the Wii virtual store. You could buy that game.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I ain't got nothing else on that one. I kind of want to get over the fighting if nobody got nothing else.
Oh yeah, let's roll.
You want the fighting is good?
One.
All right, so.
Oh yeah.
Let's hold Street Fighter off to the end because we already know.
Damn. You can't say anything else. Number one, Street Fighter, of course.
Alright, so
that's gonna kill the conversation. Let's say this. How many times did you go through those worlds playing those guys over and over and over, dude?
My bad. I don't think I ever fucking stopped.
And then after you got done playing that game, your parents were like, "Are you done yet?" "No, I need to hurry up and eat. I gotta go beat that whole entire thing again. Just one more time, I'm better."
Right.
And then the next time a few years later, they're like Turbo Street Fighter. I'm like, Turbo? They add 2 new characters. I'm like, oh no! Just play that one in circle at a time, dude. Man, that game was awesome.
Right. So, all right. So I'm gonna name one that I liked a lot, and I don't remember. I believe, was it Sunsoft or was it Takara? War Heroes 2, and that was one of the games that I got for that was like, you know, $35 at the time. One of my favorite games. I never understood why the series as a whole never got picked up, but World Heroes 2 was definitely one of my beloved fighting games back then.
Do you guys remember whenever Mortal Kombat first came out, what your reaction was?
Yeah, holy shit, I gotta get that. And I went to the arcade. I mean, but that was an arcade shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I have a story behind Mortal Kombat. Okay, so of course we all talk about the Donkey Kongs, we talk about the F-Zeros and all that stuff, and of course I had Street Fighter. Well, I went over to my sister's boyfriend's house, and he's like, "All right, you're not old enough, but I'm gonna show you this cool game." I go walking in there, and all of a sudden he hands me a controller, and then next thing I know, my spine is coming out of my body. My jaw hit the floor. And I never wanted to leave that house, dude. And then all of a sudden I got that game from my sister for Christmas without my mom knowing. My mom caught me playing that game. Boy, was I in so much trouble. I was in so much trouble when she seen that game. But of course, after the loss, she's like, hey, it's a video game. Don't do none of this stuff at school. And man, I played so much Mortal Kombat. The reaction of my face, I wish back then we had our phones and stuff we have now, because it was priceless. That game just set it off.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, Mortal Kombat 1 for the Super Nintendo definitely holds it down. And if I go any further than that, I have to push the rest of those to the... actually, I would say, Mortal Kombat 2 was, to me, ran better on the Genesis, and that's where me and my people play competitively at. And then I think you can come back to Mortal Kombat 3 for Super Nintendo, but my favorite one is Mortal Kombat 2. Even though the one had the best shock factor, but it just, since we're talking Super Nintendo, I still think number 2 was the best one.
That's the best one.
Okay,
the best one, hands down.
The next best one to that was Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate, though, because it had so many characters in it. And characters on that game were so raw because everyone was different.
Right.
I know everybody loves Street Fighter. Like, Street Fighter is everybody's stuff. Street Fighter and Tekken. But you can only add so many Street Fighter characters before you get bored because they kind of have the same moves and techniques.
Right.
And they just look different.
Right.
Mortal Kombat characters was such a variety, man. They all had backstory and...
Yeah, and with the movesets, I agree, and that's how I felt about Virtua Fighter versus Tekken. Because after a while, I felt like Tekken shit was the same thing too. They just added more flair to certain moves than others. But that may piss off a Tekken or like a super tournament Tekken fan. But that's just the way I felt about it. You know what I mean? Another one of my favorite fighting games, which it's always been a mystery to why. It had such a split reaction, and I actually it came to me, and I didn't realize that I actually played both games before, and one of them was clearly not better than the other. So the Tournament Fighters, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Tournament Fighters, the best version of that game was on the Super Nintendo. The Genesis version is actually a different game, and the Super Nintendo,
Super Nintendo one had the shark in it, didn't it?
Yeah, and the specials, the fighting, that game was legit. It was actually better than Double Dragon, the Super Double Dragon game.
There was, which system, wasn't it NES that they had Double Dragon versus Ninja Turtles?
Did they?
Was that NES or was that Super Nintendo?
I think
I remember that game.
That might have been NES. Yeah, I think that might have been NES. But that Tournament Fighter. That Tournament Fighter game was pretty good with the fly and everything, and I don't know, man. I don't know why that game didn't get more love, but people know about it. But then there's people who really know about it because they played the shit, and they have nothing negative to say about that game.
What about Killer Instinct?
I mean, of course, Killer Instinct is definitely on his list. But to me, that
is up there for combos. That's a combo.
It's a combo game, but it's one of those games where I still enjoyed it better in the arcade. Like, even when it came to console, I was still spending my money in the arcades.
I think that game was a better tournament game than Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. Mm-hmm. Because I felt like it had more potential into being like a game that everybody could like watch on TV and see people play against each other more than the Tekken stuff, because you got a lot of blocking and stuff and like Street Fighter and Tekken and all that. This game, you just ready, set, go, start beating each other up. Through the blocking, let's see who can get the most combos.
I mean, I really like the game myself as well. I put hours into Killer Instinct, but I'm gonna be honest with you. SNES was not the system of choice for that game for me. It was all about the Game Boy. So, I mean, I'm sorry. I love playing that game on the Game Boy. I knew it existed on SNES, but it was just so much. I like to have fighting games in my pocket. That's all I can say.
I honestly forgot that it was on the Game Boy. I honestly forgot that was a Game Boy game also.
I forgot, but at the same time, I wasn't really a handheld. Yeah.
I mean, I have just a few on my list for Super Nintendo. Unfortunately, again, Snow, I have to go foreign again. This is actually sad to say. This is an emulated only own, but I have to call it out because it's becoming popular again. Dragon Ball Hyper Dimension.
Yeah, that's fair. I had the game too. I had the actual cart. I had to burn the side of the cartridges in order for me to play it.
That game was amazing, and once again, it was one of those games that really freaking pushed the Super Nintendo to the edge. I mean, you had 3D backdrops. I mean, characters literally going into the background.
Don't forget split screen. Don't forget split screen when you both got out of range.
Split screen. It actually was one of those games that used the left and right bumper keys.
Yep.
A lot of games didn't know how to use those.
And if I'm not mistaken, you could counter a special with your special, right? And then y'all just battle it out.
Special with your special, battle it out. I mean, the game was professional. It was top grade A, good game, you know. And then the only other foreign one I want to throw out there, all because of course I'm an anime fan. They had Yu Yu Hakusho, which was another good fighter. It played kind of like a SNES game, but played during that time, so it was a good game. Just wanted to give that one a small shout out.
Yeah, I mean, and we called out Rama 1 before, and I looked it up because I couldn't remember if I said the name right. But then the 1.5 game, that was a fighting game. Did you ever play that one?
What's that, 1.5?
Rama 1.5.
No, I didn't know that was a fighting game.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that either. I thought that was just like a half episode or whatever. But what
about Clay Fighters? Clay Fighters?
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun for a little. That was fun for like 2 minutes. But and with
and then what about Primal Rage?
Yeah, I was just about to say that because of Killer Instinct, I was gonna bring up Primal Rage. That one, we played that for about 15 minutes. That was fun, and it had kind of like their little version of fatalities and shit like that. That was pretty good. Even that, I forget the name, that monster game, but I don't think that counts as a fighter. Pit Fighter was in there too. Nah. That's PSX. B. Bloody Roar is PSX. Okay. I can't remember what the other one was. I don't know why.
Didn't you say Shaq Fu was one of your favorite games?
Shaq Fu is not one of my favorite games, but I did enjoy playing it because I fucks with Shaq. I fucks with Shaq hardcore. That's my dude. I give him points for that. I give him points because he's done a lot with his life, so I won't hold him. I won't hold him down for having that game because I
heard there's a remake coming out, so you get another dosage of it.
Yeah. He got a Kickstarter going, and I'm down.
Yeah,
I'm down. I just want to say it for the sake of saying it, because in case someone's listening to us, I want to say the Fatal Fury series, but the reason why I'm not really saying them, and same thing goes for Art of Fighting, because they're all part of the same SNK franchise. Because I don't want to say those games because they did not run well, in my opinion, on Super Nintendo. They ran best on the Genesis. So when we have this conversation again, I'm gonna geek out on Art of Fighting and Fatal Fury, because Fatal Fury is one of my favorite. Yeah,
they had a lot of choppiness on the SE and the Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. It hurts me for you to say that only because I'm a diehard SNK fan, you know. But I mean, and I'm a diehard SNES fan.
Right.
But I have to admit those games play better on Sega systems, especially the Dreamcast. I just had to throw that out, you know. But I mean, honestly, if it outside of that, definitely some of the games that I love, because it all started there and led up to King of Fighters, which is one of my favorites. You know,
did you guys ever play Justice League Task Force?
I seen it, but I never bought into it. How was that?
That game was hard to get too, and I had that game. That game it's literally like what we have now, which is Injustice, but they're not bad guys. But it's like Superman versus Batman and all that stuff. You could just go on and fight each other.
I couldn't get my hands on that game. Even when we were doing rentals, we couldn't find that shit. So that was like a rare one. Anybody remember, because we said Primal Rage, anybody remember Brutal Paws or some shit like that? Paws of Fury, some shit like that? That shit was pretty cool for like 2 minutes. But then there was this shit called Best of the Best that me and my brothers, the same brother that I used to play Top Gear and Super Bases Loaded with, we had all these weird ass fucking games that we played each other in. Best of the Best was a karate game. It was a red guy and a blue guy. It was a stiff ass game, but we fucking enjoyed it.
Oh, funny. Best of the best.
Then there was Rise of the Robots.
I heard about that. I never fucking touched it. I never even seen
I
it.
had all kinds of weird games. I'm telling you, I was weird.
I'm just gonna call out one more because it kind of crosses genres, but Power Rangers. Once again,
Yes,
Power Rangers
that was with the Zords,
games.
right? That was with the Zords, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Again, I feel like the what's the name version was better. The Sega Game Gear version, I think I want to call it out, was better. I think the Game Gear version was better than the Super Nintendo version.
I can agree with that. I mean, a lot of my Power Ranger games were on Sega Genesis.
Right.
So,
The Sega Genesis one was pretty beastie. And then I said the monster game. I looked it up earlier. I looked up while we were talking. I looked up monster fighting games, and King of the Monsters 2 came up. And I think that was the one that I never played the first one, but King of the Monsters 2, that was I played that one. That one was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was the one with you had like the big gorilla and a dinosaur or.
Yeah.
And then the big guy in yellow. You had the
Yeah.
walking around the city to find each other, and we finally find each other and start tearing each other up.
Oh yeah.
So
we had some pretty good fighting games on people.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Should we take it? Where you guys want to take it to? I'm trying to figure out. Should we go shooters or something? I don't know.
Man, I wouldn't even go shooters because there's not too many that are that good. Like unless you want to go action adventure again.
I mean,
side-scrolling shooter.
With the side-scrolling shooters, right? I think one of the games that I probably would put in there, I think you're right. I think because the only thing I could think of, Raiden, Jungle Strike, and Gradius games. Those were like my shooters, and R-Type, of course.
See,
and Star Fox.
If you want, Desert Strike was one I always.
Oh yeah,
I like those.
Yeah, Desert Strike also goes into the other thing. That's all EA shit right there.
For some reason, they always catch us, huh?
Well,
EA,
I mean, I don't.
EA
really
used to be good.
I can't say I have a lot of shooters, but I feel like you're abandoning one big genre that was very popular during the Super Nintendo time. And I really want to give some shout outs to that. So I really would love for you to get to that genre because it was like right up there with fighting for me, and that's the puzzle genre.
No. I know I'm not gonna ignore that because some of my favorite puzzle games are still available on Super Nintendo, and they don't they just don't get no love now. But yeah, no R-Type, R-Type, Raiden, but I feel like all these. I mean, we did have a few of these. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you know what? It wasn't really that many. I think I'm gonna kill that there. So let's just go to the puzzles, because I think I just said all the good ones that were available. Yeah, you can start off with this one.
All right. Well, I have to call out like just at least my top 3, and then I'm gonna leave you guys with the rest. First on my list is actually Kirby Avalanche. I had to get that out. A lot of people didn't play that, but it was a great game. I mean, it's Kirby. You can't go wrong. So you had special little moves that you could do inside Kirby Avalanche where you can kind of interact with some of the characters, like the whistling trees, if you guys remember those from any of the Kirby games.
Mm-hmm.
The next game I want to go to is Yoshi Cookies. I'm not gonna lie.
I never played that shit.
So much time to say Yoshi's Cookies on Super Nintendo. It was also a Game Boy game, and going back to what Blood was saying earlier, it was actually a Super Game Boy game as well. So you could actually take the cartridge and adapt the Game Boy version to the Super Nintendo console.
Nice.
So I want to definitely throw that one out there. And then the last one, Dr. Mario. Yes, it came it came out. Dr. Mario
I mean,
was one of the best puzzle games.
But the Dr. Mario one is kind of it was a port.
It was a port.
It was a port.
But if it's good,
I guess I let it slide because I am a huge fan of Dr. Mario. I can't front to you. So in that case with Dr. Mario, I was gonna say, why not say Tetris and Dr. Mario? Remember they did the 2-in-1. I was gonna avoid that, but I was gonna say Tetris 2 and Tetris Attack, and then I was gonna say Pack Attack. That was the name of the game, the Pac-Man game that I was talking about. Yeah. Pack Attack, and then the Super Arkanoid, which I don't think is listed under, but that's definitely a fucking game because I play that shit on my emulator. No, I can't really credit Super Nintendo for Bust a Move because Bust a Move was better on. No, but that was Columns. So yeah, I'll say Bust a Move as well. And I don't think I have anything else. Fuck Lemons. If anyone was thinking about Lemons.
No. You have one more, Snow. You're not pulling it out, man. You have one more.
Shit, bro. I'm really drawing a blank. Like Super Arkanoid.
Super Bomberman.
Super Bomb. Whoa, can we put that as a puzzle game?
I mean, it's technically a puzzle game, bro. You're moving pieces around.
Yeah, you know what?
You're putting bombs out.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah, fuck it. That's gonna have to count.
That was one of the best. I mean, I don't know what else to put it into. What can we put it in? What strategy? Because I feel like it's puzzle all the way.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, shit. I don't even want to get into the strategy shit. So yeah, we're gonna have to put that. We're gonna have to put that shit in there because I'm not going to strategy. That's too. We breaking it down too much.
Definitely, Bomberman. It was. It fits into genres. I would say it's puzzle and it's competitive play.
Right.
I mean,
and it's also considered arcade. It's also considered arcade too because there you go. Arkanoid is considered arcade. They didn't put it as puzzle. That's what it is.
Really?
And Kirby's Dream House is also considered arcade. Just like like Miss Pac-Man is considered arcade. What's another one? I know that's a Sega Genesis title. I don't even know if that game ever exists on Super Nintendo, but if it did, no one knew about it. Paperboy, Q*bert, all those were considered arcade games.
Oh man, I love Q*bert. Another puzzle game, Wario's Woods, dude. Did you guys ever play that?
Oh yeah, I did. I was a big fan of Mario and Wario back in the day, so I pretty much touched anything with those names on it.
And you can look this up. There's another puzzle game that I played a lot of. Krusty Super Funhouse, dude.
Wow.
That game
a throwback.
Was something.
That's a throwback right there. Yeah, that's a throwback.
Krusty as in Simpsons?
Yes.
Yeah, dude. You didn't know? Did you not play that game?
What? No, I'm gonna be honest. I passed that one up.
I passed up on it too because it was Krusty.
It was Krusty, and I mean, I think it was more of, I don't know if it was puzzle because it kind of looks like platform.
It is under puzzle. If you look it up, it is a puzzle game.
That's shocking. That's shocking because it definitely looks like a platformer. But I mean, with that,
you had to move around. You had to do a lot of stuff because you had to like move blocks around to get to certain areas and put up mouse traps to catch mice.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and you know that goes back to Zelda as well. Because Zelda, you know, it kind of had it fit in a few genres. I mean, you can't argue that it wasn't puzzle play involved. You know, you had to always figure out something on the board in order to progress through the game. And I mean, so it had its puzzle elements as well, but at the same time, it was a solid RPG. So it's like a lot of games back in those days were hard to really identify. You know,
right? Like Populous. No one knows how to. No one's how to identify Populous. I don't know. I still don't know what category to put that shit in.
And I think that's when genres really start to, develop in gaming, because people were like, okay, let's make a Super Nintendo game, but I want it to be action, adventure, puzzle, and platformer. And that could work back then. But now, I mean, it's not so easy to do that,
Right.
You may fit in one or two genres, but it's not going to be a smooth transition, it's not going to be flawless. It's always going to be lacking in some area. Whereas back in those days, it was more of an open canvas, and they could just make anything work.
Right, because for, like you said, for platforming, that was going to be one that I thought we were going to mention offhand. Because now that you said the word platforming, Ariel the Acrobat, he was a platformer. I couldn't put him in action event or adventure. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And technically, what the fuck did we put Super Mario in?
Exactly, and I think we may have placed him along the lines of maybe, being in action adventure, but at the same time, like you said, he was a platformer.
Right, because when you open that up, right, then you got Animaniacs. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, Animaniacs. Oh,
right.
Man.
What about Tiny Toon? You gotta jump in
the Tiny Toon games, which is one of my favorite, but also, you know why it didn't come to my head? Because I love that game. It played better on Sega Genesis. You know what I'm saying? Like, and Cool Spy, I did mention earlier, but that is actually a platform game. Aladdin is a platform game. I believe Lion King is considered platform as well. Actually, Donkey Kong. I know Donkey Kong is platform. You know what I mean? And that's because today these games are blurred. That platform adventure or action adventure, because of the use of 3D. That's why we got blurred.
Batman Returns, Batman and Robin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Batman and Robin.
Yeah, Earthworm Jim. Yes, all those platforms.
Right. And I mean, that line, it seems like platform is like a subgenre, basically. It doesn't really have, unlike, there were a few games where you described that you can straight up say that it was a platformer. Like, to me, I feel like Cubert was a platformer. I mean, it was puzzle, but it was also a platformer, because you're jumping from block to block, from world to world, So it's like platforming is almost like a subgenre for games these days.
Right, because I'm gonna pick on one of my favorite Genesis games that never got a sequel, and this could be arguably one or the other, but like Kid Chameleon. Do you call that a platformer or do you call that adventure?
Right.
Man.
That's crazy, man. And now I think about it. Right, and Bonk. Oh my God, Bonk, Super Bonk.
Super Bonk. Ah!
And Adventure Island.
That baby forever.
Yeah, so those are platforming games, and fuck it, we'll just count it as what we said. And the Tiny Toon Adventures, Busted Loose, that was so much fucking fun.
Didn't Taz have his own game too?
Yes, he did have his own game, and also SWAT Cats too. But that Taz game was actually pretty fun.
Yeah. All the Looney Tunes games were fun. I don't think Looney Tunes had a bad game.
You know what was my favorite Looney? Again, it's on the it's the Tiny Toon All Star one, whatever one where they was playing basketball and some other sport in. That was my favorite one. Damn, son, I'm not sure if I got any other genres, because it does get a little fishy, because
Speedy Gonzalez had his own game.
Yes,
I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And then that Taz game, I think, was called Tasmania. And then
I own that game, Tasmania. That was actually a pretty good game.
We touched base on this earlier, but we said something about Daffy Duck having his own game. It was the Marvin the Martian game. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're dressed up in the green suit, and you're going after Marvin the Martian. Dude, that game was hilarious.
I mean, and Snow, bringing up platformers again. I mean, you said, I don't know if you said Earthworm Jim, but that was definitely a platform.
I think we said it a little earlier too.
Yeah, it was definitely a platformer.
Yeah, that was definitely a platformer. Now that I'm thinking about it, and it was probably Prince of Persia is probably in there somewhere. But no one really gave a shit
mean-
about Prince of Persia games back then, in my opinion.
Not at
See,
all.
I'll say Earthworm Jim was good on NES.
But it
I
lit, to
played
me that
most
was a
on
super.
Genesis.
Yes, to me that was a Genesis game. That was a Genesis
What
What
game.
about Mega Man?
Dude, I already touched Mega Man. You cannot. Man, Mega Man is beyond
I
the
know,
best.
but you know, some things sometimes
But-
are so epic that you have to bring them back. You know.
Well, Mega Man
Mega
is
Man
definitely
is
gotta be
one
a.
of them.
He gotta be a
Too,
platform.
though.
Yeah, I mean, but it was a puzzle, but he was more of a platform. But then we covered that in an adventure, I think.
Did you say strategy also though? 'Cause there was a strategy to.
I mean,
those
if you
levels and
if you
fight.
throw that's true, but if you throw strategy in there, you could throw RPG in there because you had powers. You had to fit.
And
That
you
was the
did get
first-
new powers after
That
you
was
beat bosses.
the first. Mega Man X was the first Mega Man to actually hide little generators and secret spots for you to go get new powers with, other than what the bosses gave you.
Right.
Because you could fly, you could jump on the walls and stick to the wall and jump off the wall. Dude, I remember all that stuff. You
So
could
I'm
have
just
the
gonna
rocket
say
suit.
Mega Man needs to be in the awesome genre because I mean it was a bit of everything, you know.
Well, you could upgrade it too, dude. You upgraded your boots, you upgraded your blaster, your helmet, your chest piece, all in Mega Man X. That's why I was saying, like, we went from Mega Man to Mega Man Extreme, basically. That was just, I can upgrade my character
Right.
just by finding hidden pieces.
I
I'm just
know.
gonna say that, like, you know, Mega Man though, no, I understand it's a platformer, but man, it was action packed. It was action packed all the way through.
But,
And for me, that's what stuck out the most, that it was an action game.
Yeah, I know, and that's one of those things where this comes into a question now, but back then there was a definitive answer at the time. We can question it
Right.
now, but back then it was just like, oh well, it could be, blah blah blah.
The game that reminds me of Mega Man now is Mercenary Kings. If you haven't played Mercenary Kings,
I've been trying to play it with y'all, but I haven't caught anybody playing yet. And the one time I did catch
Hey,
you
I
playing
mean-
Blood, the one time I caught you playing Blood, I was signing the fuck off. Like I just got off from Battlefield and I ain't want to see nothing else.
I was playing off my Vita too.
Nice.
So that's why
I've been playing a little bit. I'm still in the early stage, so I mean, next week school ends. I'm available. I can definitely jump in. I'm gonna argue that Mercenary Kings is more like Contra to me.
I'm down. I'm okay with that.
to an extent, but once you get into the game, notice that you can go back to your base and upgrade your gun and the way you look and all that stuff, and the way you go up and down and jump, and you can like go on zip lines and stuff. It feels like a Mega Man thing.
I kind of want to. I want to have a video for that. What's the favorite fucking Contra game? Because there's so many of them out there.
Super
Man,
Contra. Super Contra.
Contra 3.
Yeah, whew. I'm not even gonna get into that because y'all ain't even bring up the Sega Genesis one. Y'all ain't even bring up the Sega Genesis one.
Contra is just Contra.
The one with the dog, baby. How you gonna leave the dog out? But do any of us care about the Super Scope 6?
No.
Yeah, same here. So yeah, I mean, we could pretty much kill this conversation here. I want to thank you guys for giving me pretty much an hour and a half of your time. And yeah, I mean, for everyone that's listening, hopefully you guys enjoyed this long ass conversation with my two boys, Blood and Video Game King. That's Blood Assassin. I keep saying it for sure because I just like saying Blood.
Blood Assassin 69.
Yeah. And I'll make sure that I put you guys, Twitter out there if you guys want to be reached, and if you want your PSNs out there, I'll put it out there too if you guys don't mind.
Oh, that's fine. You can do that too.
Yeah, go ahead and say it. I'm gonna mark it on the video, but go ahead and say it just for the people to hear your voice say it.
Mine would be Blood Assassin 69 is my PSN name. Also, Blood Assassin 69 at Twitter.com.
All right.
All right, and it's Video Game King. That's Video Game King. King has that one in it instead of an I because I'm the only one.
No doubt.
That's
And then-
PSN, 360 every day.
And they already know where I'm at. They can find me all day, every day. Snow Nasty, Twitter. You know what I mean? Snow Nasty online with the PSN. And you already know. Just stay tuned to us on Ignorant Gamers. I appreciate everybody listening, liking, subscribing to the channel and everything like that. And, again, thank you, Blood. Thank you, Video. for joining in on this call. I do want to do another one. I kind of want to get into Sega Genesis next, and yeah, I'm gonna just wrap this up right here. So if there's anything else you guys want to say before I close it up.
Nah, other than Genesis is going to be a brawl podcast. Is all I can.
that might be a 2-hour podcast.
Get PS4s if you don't have them. That's all I have to say.
So I'm gonna wrap this up. Alright, everybody, thank you. And thanks for listening, everybody. One.